on the air with President Biden, seeing for himself just how bad Hurricane Ian was, how bad things still are for the people who were hit by it, promising to give the state as much as it needs to recover. Ahead, some new details on why it's taking so long to get the lights back on. Plus, more on the what you could call rare sight a month out from the midterms. Political rivals side by side in what's basically a truce. Plus, the president says the world's top oil producers are being short-sighted by slashing big time how many barrels they're going to sell. Why that could be good news for Russia and bad news for you getting gas. And an NBC News exclusive, our team connecting the dots on one of the weirdest moments of the January 6th attack on the Capitol, when it looked like a police officer put on a MAGA hat to join forces with an Oathkeeper. What we now know about why that happened. Plus, we're logging on to find out why we're all so obsessed with these huge cheating scandals in the fishing and chess and poker worlds going viral online. Here's a hint. It may have something to do with the big money that's on the line. And in tonight's original, how politics and dating are kind of basically intertwined these days with this new app aimed at young conservatives that has a lot of people talking. We will talk about it later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and right now President Biden is on his way back to Washington after getting an up-close look at what exactly Hurricane Ian did to Southwest Florida. Here he is with folks affected by the damage in Fort Myers Beach. Listen, it wasn't a pretty sight, right? He was getting the aerial view from Marine One. We want to show you here how he saw it all with this wide view from the wing. That is what it looked like, and you can see what a mess it still is. President Biden calling this one of the biggest search and rescue efforts we've ever seen and promising he's not going anywhere.
Today, we have one job and only one job, and that's to make sure the people of Florida get everything that they need to fully, thoroughly recover.
We're also seeing something you probably didn't have on your pre-midterm bingo card. The president, side by side with one of his biggest Republican rivals, Governor Ron DeSantis, both explicitly putting aside the politics to put people first. That's how they see it. And the people sure need it. We now know 115 people have been killed by this storm, with Lee County officials saying the searches are basically turning into recovery missions now. And the people who did survive, they've been struggling with just the basics of what they need to live. You see people at this so-called disaster recovery center. This is the line. Okay, this is the line to get in and get help. One church pastor telling NBC News that he had to serve 28,000 meals in one day. But now some new criticism from some corners that the recovery has not been equal, as our Carrie Sanders learned.
I'm quite sure other neighborhoods that got richer people, they got help in quicker than we got help in.
They work just as hard as the people on the beach did, and they're not getting the attention here because it's not the beach.
Jesse Kirsch is in Fort Myers Beach for us, covering every angle of this. Jesse, first, tell us what it's like on the ground, what the big messages you're hearing from people.
Yeah, so Hallie, obviously people at this point are trying to get access to their homes, to their businesses, and the president came through today when the motorcade pulled down this stretch of road where we are. One of the things that is so powerful is when you are driving through these roads and you see these massive boats piled up on the side of the road, and there's one right in front of us that is on top of a crumpled SUV. And so I can tell you, we saw the president's motorcade going right by that, so we know that the president and the first lady were making their way past these scenes and making their way toward an area where we've seen boats in the water crumpled and smashed up together. I asked one business owner here what it's like to have the president come in here, and he said he thinks it's good for morale, but he was very frank with me. He said, we need to be cleaning up. We need him to, be moving to the side so we can be getting through the cleanup. And that's what I think a lot of people are focused on here now.
The political angle is kind of interesting here, too, Jesse. It is not the primary angle because it is intentionally not the primary angle, right? Because Governor DeSantis and President Biden have been very insistent that this is not the time for politics. It's the time for what you're talking about here. Crushed homes, crushed cars, people who are struggling to survive. The president was asked about this today. I want to play a little piece of it came in just the last maybe 90 minutes.
I think he's done a good job. We have very different political philosophies, but he's worked hand in glove, and he's been on safety and dealing with this crisis. We've been completely lockstep.
It's tough to hear. That was kind of an impromptu Q&A that the president was doing, but he talks about Governor DeSantis and says, hey, we have different philosophies, but we're basically in lockstep. That kind of coordination is so important to people where you are right now, Jesse.
Yeah, and just today, the White House announced that the president is extending from the amount of time to 60 days now. So from 60 days since this disaster, that the federal government is going to be picking up a lot of financial cost associated with cleanup and moving debris, because I think that's one of the first things that is so important. I was talking with a power company earlier about being able to get power lines up, and one of the challenges for them is getting debris out of the way just to be able to access those lines. So federal government supporting that financially is obviously going to make a huge difference. And Hallie, we do have a new photo from the Sheriff's Department here in Lee County showing from one of the islands pointing back toward the mainland, crews rebuilding a temporary bridge so that people can access Pine Island, one of the communities that has been cut off by roadways. So that is a hopeful sign. And the governor earlier today said that residents should be able to later today get on that island, but the Sheriff's Department said it was just personnel at this point and pointed us back to the state. So we're trying to get some clarity on if residents are themselves able to get back on that island yet, too.
What's up with the power? It is still out in a lot of places. People are obviously working around the clock to try to get the lights back on. It is not easy, and that is creating some frustration now. Days now, a week change after Ian hit.
Yeah, and we did talk with one of the power providers here earlier. They said they have about 150,000 customers still in the dark. Here's what that company told us about their work right now.
Those are going to take 3 to 4 person crews, hours to get back online. You're going in doing the dirty work in people's backyards. It's a time-consuming process that our crews are doing right now.
And then, Hallie, of course, beyond that, there are some homes that cannot get power. Even if the power lines are working, they won't be able to give them power because those homes are so badly damaged right now, Hallie.
Jesse Kirsch live for us there in Fort Myers Beach, starting us off tonight. Jesse, thank you. It is not just President Biden who's in the air on his way to Washington. You know who else is in the air right now? The first Native American woman in space, Nicole Mann. Check her out. You're about to see her taking off today, a couple days behind schedule because of delays from that hurricane, as she becomes SpaceX's first female commander. Little flavor there from the launch just late this afternoon. They're going to be up there for 5 months for more than 200 experiments aboard the International Space Station. And here's another history-making twist, because you see that woman on the right, Anna Kikina. She's the first cosmonaut on a SpaceX flight, the first time a Russian is going to go to space on an American ship in 2 decades. Lindsay Reiser had a front row seat to all of it. Darn good view there, Lindsay, from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Talk to us about it. Talk to us about this sort of interesting history-making moment.
Yeah, perfect weather today, perfect conditions, Hallie. Just incredible to be here on the ground for that. But you mentioned these tensions between the U.S. and Russia, of course, because of this war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Russians and the U.S. are working together on this project. And some interesting news today, because Russia has basically said they'll only commit to cooperating with the ISS through 2024. But today, the representative from Roscosmos turned a lot of heads when he sort of changed his tune a little bit. Let's listen.
We start to cooperate, as I said, many years ago, more than 40 years ago, and we will continue our cooperation as long.
So very interesting development there today, Hallie. As for those astronauts, they are en route. They're about 24 hours away from docking at the ISS, quite a long time for their rendezvous there. And as you mentioned, they're going to be doing just some incredible experiments that will really help pave the way for the future, Hallie.
You know, talk about the mission specifically, too, because they're getting hooked up to all these kinds of machines to look at their heart health, et cetera. It feels like the goal is not the ISS. It's obviously not that. It's how do you then launch into deeper space, right?
Exactly. We've been talking about this Artemis mission. Of course, it's been pushed back a couple of times. This will be an unmanned mission orbiting the moon, going around deep space around the moon. Eventually, the goal is to get humans back to the moon. Eventually, after that, to get humans to Mars. And so some of the experiments that they're doing, you mentioned those suits, these biomechanical suits they're wearing that will measure everything from their breathing rate to their blood pressure to their heart rates. They're going to be conducting science experiments looking at how an oil-like liquid will fare in low-gravity environments. That can be eventually used in development for some kind of lunar rover eventually. They're doing all kinds of medical experiments. They're looking at heart stem cells. They have a 3D printer that has printed organs. They've successfully printed a human knee cartilage. So really some incredible experiments that these astronauts were all really looking forward to get started on, Hallie.
Lindsay Reiser live for us there down at Kennedy Space Center. Lindsay, thank you. Today, the White House says President Biden is disappointed after OPEC decided to cut global oil production by 2 million barrels a day. This is a big move. It is a big deal. It is a big cut, with the president calling it short-sighted. You know, less oil supply means higher gas prices. So is this great for you if you drive a car that takes gas? Probably not. I know you probably felt this chart very viscerally, right? Gas prices went up and up and up, and then they started to drop. We just started to see gas prices come down. They're still way lower from that $5 high on average across the country we all saw this summer. On the flip side of this, who is this good for, this decision? This guy, Vladimir Putin and Russia. Why? Almost half of Russia's entire budget comes from money they make from oil, which means that this move by OPEC Plus now makes Russian oil even more valuable on the international market. And today's move is the exact opposite of what President Biden and the White House had wanted to see. Remember, he'd made this trip to Saudi Arabia this summer to try to get them to produce more oil to keep prices down. Brian Chung is joining us now. So now that this decision is made, what does it mean for us? Does it mean those lower prices are for sure gone? Does it mean they're for sure gone for a long time? What can the administration do?
Well, Hallie, as you just showed from that chart right next to you, we've already kind of seen prices come off of the lows, at least for 2022 so far. So a bit of a reversal already. But if we take a look at what we expect the impact of this OPEC announcement to be, you have the likes of Patrick DeHaan at Gas Buddy warning that this could lead to 15 to 30 cents higher per gallon in terms of what we're paying at the pump domestically. Of course, that's going to depend on what part of the country you live in, but that will likely take prices at the pump to above $4 a gallon in many corners of this country. But of course, as you mentioned, a lot of other political threads happening here. The Biden administration had been asking OPEC and the other oil-producing countries not to cut supply. What the action happening today out of that decision in Vienna clearly showing that these oil-producing nations not on the same page with the United States and wanting to do that.
Let's also talk about what this means for Russia, because this is pretty explicitly, right, shots fired at the West, essentially, metaphorically, obviously, because this is something that we talked about. The U.S. didn't want to see. The EU have been trying to limit oil revenue. Now higher prices means more money for Russia towards the war in Ukraine, right? This is a victory, clearly, for Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, they're trying to finance a war, and this is a producing country that relies so much in terms of their economic power on the oil and gas industry. Now, if we unpack exactly what's been going on with Russia, really interesting to see that they were running a budget surplus through the beginning of this year, and after they waged the war on Ukraine, they've been burning through that buffer. And a lot of that is also associated with the decline that we've seen in oil prices. If you take a look at a chart of the price of Brent crude oil, it's been falling, and that's coincided with what Russia has seen in terms of their budget surplus shrinking. So oil prices increasing would be good for them in terms of financing that.
You know, this is all happening about a month, 5 weeks before the midterms, right? And there is a political backdrop to this. The economy is a big reason why people show up and turn out to vote, how they're feeling about the cost of living. If gas prices are spiking in the weeks before Election Day, that could be potentially not good news for Democrats and the folks that President Biden is trying to get into Congress.
And it's important to note, though, that the OPEC cut announcement today is not going to take effect until November. Now, whether or not that's going to be in the early part of November to be felt by the time voters are going to the polls remains to be seen. But that impact of the 15 to 30 cents might not be felt until after that. But of course, we do need to remember it wasn't long ago that we saw $5 a gallon at the pump. But it seems like the projections, at least for right now, wouldn't be taking it to that. So maybe there's some solace that the Biden administration can take on that front, Hallie.
Brian Chung, thank you so much. Appreciate it. To some new and exclusive reporting now. NBC News piecing together what happened during one of the most bizarre moments of the January 6th insurrection. A moment that Oathkeepers, now on trial, are trying to use in their own defense. I want you to look at however you're streaming us right now. Look at this image. Do you see him? This officer, it looks like a Capitol Police officer in a MAGA hat, seeming to join forces with an Oathkeeper at the riot. That's then Capitol Police Lieutenant T.K. Johnson holding onto the jacket of a member of that far-right group. That's Michael Nichols. He's holding like the hood or whatever. Here you see Nichols lead Johnson and a bunch of other officers to the crowd. Johnson then, watch this, snags a MAGA hat from somebody, puts it on. Some rioters celebrating, thinking officers were giving up the building, conceding here. NBC News reviewed multiple videos of that moment and spoke with Johnson's lawyer, who says he put the MAGA hat on as a ruse to try to get people in the crowd to help him. Ryan Riley, who is behind this scoop, this exclusive, joins us now. And Ryan, this was a key moment because at the time, some people saw this as evidence. There was a relationship between police at the Capitol and these supporters of Donald Trump that was a little too close. Obviously, Johnson, this cost him his position as lieutenant. Tell us more about this reporting, what you found, and what it means.
Yeah, I think, frankly, something to keep in mind here is that this was a black officer, and a lot of officers who are black got a lot of racial insults that day. So I think that that's definitely a component you've got to consider when he made the decision to put on that MAGA hat that day. I did get a statement from the U.S. Capitol Police. T.K. Johnson's career has ended as a result of this at the Capitol Police. He actually resigned less than 2 weeks ago, and his statement says a thorough investigation found that Johnson, did not help the rioters before, during, or after the attack. The department took appropriate actions to address the official's conduct about his personal decisions and his acceptance of the hat, Hallie.
We should note here, Nichols has not been charged in connection to this. He says the FBI has visited him twice to talk about what happened. They asked him about his ties to the Oathkeeper, et cetera. But what's interesting here is the Oathkeepers who are on trial are trying to point to this. They're trying to use this in their own defense.
That's right. They essentially want credit for what this other individual did. And, there's a distinction between the Oathkeepers, the larger group, and the individuals who are actually charged as a part of the seditious conspiracy. This individual Nichols was affiliated with the Oathkeepers. He had signed up for their online account. He communicated with others, but he was never in communication directly that we've seen any evidence of with the individuals who were charged with seditious conspiracy. And in fact, he traveled with his wife to D.C., and you can see them at Donald Trump's speech. He's not wearing the same type of gear that a lot of these other members of the Oath Keepers are. It seemed to be a whole entirely separate ordeal. And, everything I was able to check out, a lot of what he told me, because there's so much video evidence. So, he told me, for example, that they were praying at one point on the steps a little further over on the Senate side and standing on the initial steps there. And then, the sleuths were able to turn up video of that. So I was able to fact check a lot of what he actually put together. And, I found largely that he was telling exactly what happened based on the video evidence that we've seen so far that day. And what he's represented to me is that he was not in communication with these other Oath Keepers who are charged and was not a part of this operation that has resulted in federal charges, although he is defensive of the Oath Keepers in general and thinks that they're getting scapegoated essentially for what happened on January 6th, Haley.
Ryan Riley, is a great scoop, great reporting. Thank you very much for bringing it to us. To Georgia now, where NBC News is learning today that the Republican Senate campaign for Herschel Walker down in Georgia raised something like $500,000 since he went on Fox News Monday night to deny that bombshell report from the Daily Beast, alleging that he, an anti-abortion candidate, paid for one back in 2009. Some Georgia voters that NBC spoke with today seemingly unfazed by the allegations. It's kind of a mixed bag. Watch.
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried more about how you're going to approach taxes, how you're going to approach homelessness, how you're approaching rising gas prices.
Walker's support among Republicans on Capitol Hill still growing, still pretty strong. Senator Lindsey Graham today accusing liberals of playing games, tweeting, "It didn't work when they tried to destroy Brett Kavanaugh, and it will not work in Georgia today." With Walker back on Fox, denying the allegations again, saying they only energize him. Yamiche Alcindor is with us now, live from Georgia, where she went down. Yamiche, you were talking with people today, at least for people who may support Walker in November. You heard people kind of say, listen, maybe we can look past this. We knew he was a flawed man. People do things, but yet they feel like he'll represent them in the Senate the way they want to be represented.
Certainly, Hallie. I'm here in Marietta, Georgia, which used to be a deeply red part of the state that's now been shifting blue, so it's a sort of swing part of the state. I've been talking to voters all day, and the bottom line is that most voters I talk to, this allegation that Herschel Walker paid a woman who was pregnant with his child to have an abortion, that allegation is not going to change their vote. If you're someone who didn't like Herschel Walker, like a number of the voters that I talked to, you were probably, this is not going to impact your vote because you already thought he was someone who didn't didn't have the character to run in Senate. I talked to a number of people who said that he was a womanizer, who said that they didn't think he was fit for office because he has domestic abuse allegations against him. So those people were already in the no Herschel Walker camp. But then I talked to Herschel Walker fans, as you said, and they are sticking largely with Herschel Walker on this. I talked to a number of people who said either one, that the claims are not, that they think the claims are not true. They think that it's a lie, as Herschel Walker has been saying when he's been denying this allegation. But some of them, Hallie, I have to tell you, some of them think that it's true. I talked to one woman who said, yes, I think it probably did happen. He probably did pay her. But so what? I'm not changing my vote. They tell me that they think that Herschel Walker might have made a big mistake. He might have regretted it. But now, because Herschel Walker is an opponent of abortion rights and wants no exceptions for abortion access, including in cases of rape or incest, voters there tell me that they think he's now on the right track, and they are going to continue to have his vote, which tracks with national Republicans who are sticking with Herschel Walker as well, Hallie.
Which is, and the important context here, as you point out, Yamiche, that it's worth reiterating, is like, this is a very important seat for Republicans in the Senate, right? If they want to try to take back the Senate and put it in Republican control. And so that is sort of the backdrop to all of this. I wonder how you've heard, or if you've heard any difference, not from voters necessarily, but maybe from sort of state operatives on the Republican side versus the national Republicans. Is there any daylight there or not so much?
Well, that's a critical question. It's a question that I started my morning off with. Okay, national Republicans are sticking with Herschel Walker, but what about the Republicans in the state? So far, it seems that they are also sticking with Herschel Walker. He has an event, from my understanding, scheduled for tomorrow, so we're going to see who ends up on stage with him. But my sense is that all Republicans, at least the ones that are publicly speaking, they are staying with him. Now, some may be cringing. I've heard a little bit of that. But at the end of the day, they're sticking with their guy. And I also think it's important to note that the voters here, they get the sense of how important this race is. As you said, it's a critical battle. Republicans likely cannot take back control of the Senate if they cannot win this race. And Raphael Warnock, who is Reverend Warnock, who is the current senator, they are trying to paint him as someone whose policies just aren't right for Georgia. And that's what I heard from some voters who are fans of Herschel Walker. They say, I don't like this. Maybe it's problematic, but I just can't vote for Raphael Warnock because they think that he's led to inflation and higher gas prices and all sorts of other things. So right now, it seems as though there is no daylight between that national and state Republican or their voters. Hallie.
Yamiche Alcindor live for us there in Marietta. Yamiche, I have a feeling we'll be talking again soon. Thank you. To other news now, with Alec Baldwin and the family of cinematographer Helena Hutchins reaching a settlement in that wrongful death civil lawsuit, according to lawyers from both sides today. No word as to the details of the settlement, but Hutchins' husband, Matthew, revealing in a statement that film production is going to start back up again in January, meaning Rust, the movie, is going to get made, and that he will be an executive producer. Hutchins writing, I'm grateful that the producers and the entertainment community have come together to pay tribute to Helena's final work. And then attorney for Baldwin saying throughout this difficult process, everyone has maintained the specific desire to do what is best for Helena's son. All of it comes just a week after a district attorney in Santa Fe said they're thinking of bringing criminal charges against 4 people, including Baldwin. You'll remember Hutchins was killed last October when a live round was fired from a gun that Baldwin was holding on set. He has repeatedly said he did not pull the trigger. Joining me now is Danny Ceballos. And Danny, the Santa Fe DA released a statement today that's important here, saying the lawsuit has no impact on the criminal charges piece of this, right? Writing, you can see it here, if the facts and evidence warrant criminal charges in the law, charges will be brought. No one is above the law. Talk to me about your sense of the timing of this.
The Santa Fe DA has to issue this statement. While they are technically correct that they can proceed with a prosecution irrespective of whether or not parties decide in civil court to settle a case, that has no bearing on whether or not the prosecution can or cannot bring a prosecution. They can. But practically speaking, it becomes very difficult to bring a prosecution when your victims no longer want anything to do with the case. They can do it. They can subpoena those victims, but it will be much more difficult. So in a sense, the Santa Fe DA had its back against the wall. They have all this pressure, and they need to release a statement saying, hey, just because these parties have settled doesn't mean we're not still looking at this as a criminal case.
To your point on the victims' families and how they feel about it, there's an interesting part of Hutchins' statement, remember the husband of Helena Hutchins, where he writes, I have no interest in engaging in recriminations or attribution of blame to the producers or Mr. Baldwin. All of us believe Helena's death was a terrible accident. Is it unusual for a statement to be released like this after a settlement? And does it give credence to the point that you're making on a potential prosecution?
This is the opposite of what happens after high-profile, high-value settlements. Normally, they're kept quiet. They're kept under wraps. They are non-disclosure agreemented up. In this case, you see this statement, and it could be read as a kind of Morse code, a hidden message to the Santa Fe DA's office to say, look, we are the victims in this case. We don't want anything else to happen. We want to move on. We're satisfied. We don't want to see a criminal prosecution. Of course, that's not what they explicitly say, but you could read between the lines and conclude that that is exactly what they are trying to say without saying it. One of the, I think, I don't want to say buzziest or most surprising, but like the thing that a lot of people are talking about is that movie production is starting back up. The rest of the movie is going to start getting back into production in a few months from now in January. How, why? Like, what's the, Hutchins is executive producing now. Is there a sense that maybe it's going to, you know, make some money that could go to the family of Helena here? Like, help us make sense of that, because it seems like the opposite of what you'd expect to happen after a horrific tragedy like this. Look for this to be the safest movie set in the history of movie sets now. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't even anything approximating a firearm anywhere near the set. They'll probably all be all rubber, cardboard, completely safe, nothing even looking like a firearm. They might even CGI them. But the point is they're going to take it very carefully going forward so that they can get investors and complete this movie. But I imagine there's so much interest in this movie now that they will have no trouble finding financing and completing this movie. Danny Savalos, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Coming up here on the show, nuclear stakes so high that people in a South Korean city thought a missile drill gone wrong was actually an attack. We've got a report from the region on why everyone's so on edge. Plus, new research suggests there might be a right time to eat if you want to lose weight. Is it right now? Stick around for 3 more minutes. In the Paradise Island of Turks and Caicos tonight, anything but, as police are investigating after an American on vacation and 2 other people were shot and killed. We'll talk more about that in a couple minutes in our 5 things. But first, just within the last few minutes, we've seen China at the UN Security Council blaming the U.S. for North Korea's missile launch that flew over Japan this week, saying that because the U.S. is boosting and strengthening its alliances in the region, it shouldn't be a surprise that tensions are rising. We also heard from Secretary of State Tony Blinken today, saying any more provocations from North Korea will just lead to more isolation from the international community. Also today, an explosion in South Korea. Look at this. After a defective missile blew up during a drill with the U.S. military. Remember, this all began when a missile from North Korea flew over Japan before landing in the Pacific Ocean. It flew like 2,800 miles. You can see it here. If it ended up taking that journey in another direction, like you see right here, it would have hit Guam, a U.S. territory. Janice Mackey Frayer has more from Beijing.
Hallie, this latest test by North Korea has raised the stakes in the region again. Kim Jong-un hasn't said anything about it yet, but the sense is by launching the missile over Japan, he wanted to make a political point. And given the military response by the U.S., Japan, and South Korea, it seems he got their attention. The U.S. and South Korea firing back with 4 surface-to-surface missiles targeting the open sea. When one of them failed and caught fire, an entire South Korean town thought they were coming under attack, which says something about the level of anxiety now. This latest missile from North Korea, in a record year for missile testing, went further than any North Korean missile has gone before, some 2,800 miles, flying for 22 minutes, and right over Japan, triggering warnings for millions of people along Japan's northern coast to take cover. Japan's prime minister calling it an outrageous act. Analysts believe the missile fired was the Hwasong-12. It's massive. It was paraded through the streets of Pyongyang earlier this year, and it is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Now, the concern that is looming is that North Korea is preparing for another nuclear test. It's something Kim Jong-un hasn't done since 2017, but recent satellite imagery suggests it could happen soon. The U.S. and other countries are pushing the UN Security Council scheduled to hold an emergency meeting, but China and Russia are opposed to having any open discussion about North Korea. It's also worth noting that shortly after the missile was fired, Pyongyang voiced its support for the Kremlin's annexation of those 4 territories in Ukraine. So the regional dynamics are shifting as ever, and this time it seems dangerously so. Hallie?
Thanks to Janice, Mackey, Frayer for that reporting. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the national murder rate stayed flat last year after skyrocketing in 2020. That's according to a new report from the FBI today. The murder rate here is still much higher than it was before the pandemic. Number 2, police in Turks and Caicos say an American tourist was shot and killed there. Officials say somebody from Virginia was coming back from an excursion. Look at this, when people described as armed criminals shot into the car he was in. Somebody else from a nearby local business was also killed. 3 other people were hurt. No arrests so far. Number 3, a new report says COVID vaccines could save thousands of lives this winter, but only about 1/3 of people 50 or older have had their second booster shot. Researchers from Yale and the Commonwealth Fund say if 80% of people, if most of us, get our booster by the end of the year, about 90,000 deaths and more than 900,000 hospitalizations could be prevented. Number 4, Northeastern University Law School in Boston says it, made a little whoopsie by sending out more than 200 acceptance emails to people who applied, who did not actually get in. This email also went to thousands of people who applied before in previous years. The school says it happened because of a technical error and sends a follow-up email to clarify. Oof, that's a roller coaster of emotion if you're on the receiving end, right? Admissions decisions for the law school will not be finalized until later on in the year. When it comes to health and weight loss, it apparently may not be just what you eat, but when, according to 2 new studies that found eating on the earlier side may be good for weight loss and that keeping meals inside a 10-hour window could improve blood sugar and cholesterol levels. One study found that people who ate on a later schedule got hungrier in a 24-hour period than when they ate the same meals earlier in the day. Study participants who ate later also burned calories more slowly. That's super interesting, right? There's also a second study that found people who ate meals only inside a 10-hour window, so like from a certain time in the morning until a certain time in the afternoon, saw lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar levels. Dr. Akshay Syal joins me now to break this all down. Okay, let me start with the eating earlier thing. Full disclosure, that's what I do, right? Only because, like, my life and schedule are insane. I feel awesome about this study. Should I feel awesome? Like, what is it about this that researchers think could make us healthier by eating early?
So the thought really here, Hallie, is that this diet is sort of eating with the sun, if you will. You know, I had a mentor in med school who actually wrote a whole book on this, circadian rhythm diet. And it's sort of, the idea is timing your meals around when the sun is up. And, you know, the idea behind that is your body has this internal biological clock that actually does certain things better at certain times of the day. And, the thought is that it does better at processing food and processing calories earlier in the day, making you less likely to gain weight if you were to eat later.
But is that a little bit of stating the obvious? Because when you get up and you eat earlier, you're then like moving around generally more in the day. If you're like on a regular person's schedule and not a night owl schedule, you're walking around, you're going to work, you're burning calories. Like, doesn't that make sense? Of course that would happen.
It does seem obvious, but in this study, I believe they controlled for all of those things. And really the only difference here was one group ate dinner around 4 p.m. and the other one had what they say, dinner around 4 and then a supper after that and skip breakfast the next day. And they still saw those benefits.
Dinner at 4, talking my language. Let me tell you, I'm a fan of the early dinner. The other study that they talked about the 10-hour window, right? Kind of promotes intermittent fasting. But I'm confused by this, and I think viewers may be too, because there were a couple of high-profile studies that came out, some just fairly recently, that said that IF, as it's known in the community, intermittent fasting, doesn't really do anything. How are we supposed to make sense of this?
Yeah, it's tough to keep track. I mean, it's almost like the coffee studies. You know, one day coffee is good for you, the next day it's not. And so, on a personal note, I've been doing IF, intermittent fasting, for the past 4 or 5 years now. And so I don't eat breakfast or lunch, I guess, until 12 or 2 o'clock, and then I'm done eating about 8 p.m. Yeah, I mean, this study, they did show a benefit to intermittent fasting, but like you said, other studies haven't. And so the jury's still out. And what we tell patients really is the best diet for you is the one you can stick with. There's no magic bullet here to weight loss. So, if you are somebody who's interested, there is really no harm in trying. I will say, if you are somebody who's diabetic on a diabetic medication, please do this in consult with your doctor. We don't want your blood sugar to drop too low in the fasting.
Can I ask you a personal question, Dr. Sal? You can absolutely say you don't want to talk about this, but like, do you also, because what I hear from you is that when in your personal experience doing IF, you basically eat lunch, then you eat dinner. So like, of course you're consuming fewer calories because you're skipping a meal. Like, so again, I come back to the idea of, isn't it just obvious, eat fewer calories, and that is what promotes weight loss? That's what we've heard for a long time.
And Hallie, that's $1 million question. Is it the fasting or is it the less calories? If you are only eating from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., you naturally are less likely to eat more. So that's why we need those larger studies to really see, is it the fasting or is it the skipping the meals?
Are any of those larger studies in the works or no?
Yeah, so the author from this study, Dr. Panda, he's one of the biggest names in fasting research. There's another one, Walter Longo, out in California. So yeah, there are people looking into this right now.
Dr. Akshay Sal, great to see you. Thank you for peeling back the curtain. Enjoy your dinner, I guess, after the show. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
When we come back, cheating scandals are all over the internet. They're probably on your FYP. The chess, the poker, the fishing worlds. They're taking over our timelines. We're getting into the drama and why it is that it's so viral. Why are we so obsessed with it? Who doesn't love animal stories? Who doesn't love world records? We will bring you the tale of a very big cat, a chunky bois, coming up in just a few minutes in the local. But first, cheating scandals are taking over our timelines. And for your, all of the internet platforms that you're on, your TikTok, whatever, chess, fishing, poker, I bet this is popping up for you in your DMs, maybe in your group chats, with this investigation finding a chess grandmaster probably cheated in more than 100 games online. And even though he's getting a ton of heat on social media, in the chess world, Hans Niemann is still showing up to play today in another competition. The controversy following him, sparking protests, sparking legal threats, and some pretty wild conspiracy theories on Reddit. It's even got people who are not involved in the chess world at all concerned about how players in these big competitions could be using AI or machine intelligence to cheat. Considering one time, chess officials reportedly caught one player using Morse code in his armpit to cheat. That's how this stuff goes down. And that's just chess. Look at fishing. You've probably seen the viral video showing the moment two men got accused of stuffing their fish with weights to make them heavier so they would win a competition. It wasn't even an allegation. The guy cut open the fish. There are the weights. You have seen the video. Let's play it again.
We got weights and fish. There we go.
Gotti Schwartz is joining us now to talk all things cheating and online scandal. We got weights in fish is like a quote that's going to live forever, like in
we got
internet
weights
lore.
in chessboards. Yeah, exactly.
They're everywhere, right? Let me start specifically with like the scandals that we're seeing, because would we ever be talking about like fishing competitions or poker competitions or chess? But in this specific one, this chess thing, they don't make any conclusive statements about whether this guy, Hans Niemann, cheated during in-person games, but like his competitor, in one of these matches that really lit this whole thing up, the rumors have been going around for a while.
Yeah, and it's not just a competitor. This is the reigning world champion that he beat. And so there's a difference between online chess and cheating in online chess and cheating in in-person chess. The common denominator there being you need some sort of access to maybe an AI that's giving you a hint. So think take-home test way back in the day versus in-person test in the classroom, or think maybe that one time that I beat you in Settlers of Catan in person, and then all of a sudden, whenever we would play online, you would take a very, very long time, and then I would just get trounced.
I was really good on the phone app. I just had less performance pressure.
Sure. Yeah, so that's the thing, Hallie. It's been about 15 years since a human can really stand up to a computer. Computers just absolutely dominate humans now. So cheating really comes down to how somebody might be able to access or simulate their moves through some sort of AI, and then do them right there, either on the board in person or on a screen. So you can either have another screen up. This report that came out was from chess.com. So it's a little bit different of an investigation. They can look at what other tabs might be open, as well as the simulation of play, versus having an official there making sure that no one's cheating when two people are facing each other. And chess.com found that they think it's likely that the person in question here cheated more than 100 times at their games.
let me pull back and kind of like look at this big picture. When we look at all of these cheating scandals that have suddenly gone viral, and I will tell you, it ended up on my For You page, right? I am not a chess fan or fishing fan or person. Like, why do we care? And I don't mean that in a snide way. Like, legitimately, this is like, these are like niche interests and hobbies, and they're blowing up the internet.
I think, I mean, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but I think it's the algorithms. I think it's the algorithms taking advantage of human nature. I don't know if it's like a bunch of AIs just getting together, wanting to make humans look like petty little idiots. But there is something about algorithms in the comments section, and then seeing somebody get caught or seeing controversy and maybe they did cheat, maybe they not cheat, or they didn't cheat, and people wanting to weigh in and share their 2 cents, and then all of a sudden you've got a fight on the internet. And as we know, no matter what social media site is you're on, those types of fights and those types of arguments really juice those algorithms, and the next thing you know, you're seeing phishing, you're seeing cheating possibly in chess, you're seeing poker cheating. My For You page is filled with the same thing. It's wild.
And I wonder if some of it, too, is the fact that, like, these are really sort of, if you love chess, like, you probably really love chess. In other words, they have sort of intense enthusiasts around me. If you love poker, same thing, right? And so I wonder if that kind of creates some churn that then bubbles up.
Absolutely.
I will say there's also an element to me of, when you look at this, like, accountability. Like, you want to try cheating in Settlers again, you gotta, like, watch out, because somebody's videoing you somewhere and will catch you. Do you know what I mean? Like, hypothetically, I would never accuse you of such a thing.
You keep that camera on you, I'll keep this camera on me.
But do you know what I mean, though? Like, there's video everywhere. There's people everywhere.
Yeah, and what we're missing here in chess is just like that umpire viral moment where they're like, there's a camera in the armpit, you're out of here, which is what we saw during fishing. But yeah, it's definitely something, especially when it comes to chess. Chess is having somewhat of a renaissance moment right now, too. We just saw the Queen's Gambit become extremely popular. You have Twitch, you have so many gamers looking for a new game, and they find one with one of the oldest games around. And then you've got things like social media that are absolutely adding fuel. But chess is one of those places that used to be hallowed ground for intellectuals. It's been around since the 1500s. So the chess masters that we've spoken to today say they're absolutely disgusted by what they're seeing. Hallie?
Gotti Schwartz live for us on that. It's an interesting story, Gotti. Thank you. We'll look for more of your coverage on it tonight on Nightly News, 6:30 Eastern, wherever you watch your local NBC News. Coming up here on this show on NBC News Now, a college student killed on campus. What we know about the person facing a murder charge. That's next in The Local. Also developing just a few hours ago, police releasing surveillance video showing the moment an 8-month-old baby and 3 relatives were kidnapped in Central California. It is unsettling to watch, obviously. It shows the family being led out of their truck rental business, hands tied, by a man with a gun. He brings him over to a truck. He drives away. Law enforcement officials have a person of interest in custody, but the family is still missing. Here's Nyala Charles with that update.
This video is dramatic, released by investigators. It shows the kidnapping suspect forcing the family out of their business Monday morning. In it, the kidnapped father, Jasdeep Singh, makes contact with the suspect outside of his trucking business before the suspect enters the business and then forces Jasdeep and his brother into a pickup truck where they appear to be zip-tied. The suspect can be seen holding a gun. He then returns to the business minutes later and leads the mother and infant into the same vehicle. The family making an emotional plea to the public at this morning's press conference.
They're trying their best what they can do, but we need a public help right now. So I want to say strongly again to everybody who are watching me, please help us out, come forward, so my family come home safe.
The sheriff's office says they don't have a motive yet. Their sole lead is their person of interest, 48-year-old Jesus Manuel Salgado. Salgado is in the hospital medically sedated since attempting to kill himself before he was put into custody. The sheriff saying they need to speak to him to hopefully find the family. But so far, anytime he gets close to consciousness, they say he gets violent. So they have nothing from him yet. Investigators say he has a criminal history that includes false imprisonment and armed robbery. The main priority here to find the family alive. The Department of Justice and FBI helping with the investigation. Time is of the essence here as we are now past the first 48 hours. Investigators say they are relying on information from the public and are trying to access the family's financials to find them.
NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Midwest Bureau, a Purdue University student has been charged with murder after his roommate was found dead in a dorm on campus. Police say the suspect called 911 to tell them about the death and was taken into custody just minutes later. The school's president calling the murder as tragic an event as we can imagine happening on our campus. From our Southeast Bureau, Miss Texas making history, becoming the first Filipina American to be crowned Miss USA. She's 28. She's a fashion designer from San Antonio. Her name is Arbunny Gabriel. She designed her own dress to pay tribute to her heritage and to her parents. She'll represent Miss USA at the Miss Universe pageant next year. Also from our Midwest Bureau, this big guy in Michigan is apparently the world's tallest living domestic cat, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, also known as a chonk. It's a 2-year-old Savannah cat measuring at 18.83 inches tall. No stranger to fame. His brother holds the Guinness World Record for longest tail on a living domestic cat. What is in that family of cats? Lot to come here on the show, too, including this question. And I'm quoting here, what is your favorite liberal lie? That's not me asking. That's a prompt you can put on your profile on a new conservative dating app. We're getting into the so-called right stuff after the break. So tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping an eye on. And since it is officially cuffing season and midterm season, we're bringing you a look at how politics plays into the dating scene as people try to pair up ahead of the holidays. And listen, polling shows about a third of Americans say they take political values really seriously when they're dating. Coming as a new conservative dating app, just hit the App Store, and it's already got a lot of people talking. Maya Eaglin has the story.
Christina Barrett says she checks her dating apps every day.
I've been on everything from Bumble, Hinge to Catholic Match and have not had luck with any of them.
One of the qualities she's looking for in a partner, political preference.
I do have the fact that I'm conservative listed on all my profiles. It's very important to me.
And she's not alone. A 2019 Pew Research study found 71% of single Democrats looking for a relationship said they wouldn't consider seriously dating someone who voted for Trump in 2016, while 47% of Republicans said if a potential partner was a Clinton voter, that would be a deal breaker. That political divide led former Trump administration officials to create a new dating app.
We're sorry that you've had to endure years of bad dates and wasted time with people that don't see the world our way, the right way.
It's called The Right Stuff. And its co-founder, John McEntee, who worked in the Trump administration, says popular dating apps don't work.
When you get on one of those apps, there's a lot of left-wing messaging, so automatically you kind of feel left out.
But it's already drawing controversy over its exclusionary advertising.
No pronouns necessary. And by the way, those are the only two options, ladies and gentlemen.
And in the app, when setting up your dating profile, users can answer prompts like January 6th was fill in the blank and your favorite liberal lie. McEntee says the app is currently geared toward heterosexual relationships.
This is the first iteration of our dating app. We might be open to other things down the road, but for now, that's our focus.
Scholars say looking for a partner with similar political preferences is a trend that's grown in recent years.
Once you say you're a Republican or a Democrat, people have very good inferences on what your beliefs and values are, whereas that just wasn't the case 20 years ago.
A 2020 survey by the American Enterprise Institute found that 35% of Democrats and 39% of Republicans say having similar political views is an important factor when deciding to date someone, with differing opinions on the issues of abortion, religious freedom, and LGBTQ rights topping the list of deal breakers. It's something Dylan Nicole Martin, who identifies as a non-binary transmasculine lesbian, takes into account when swiping on the apps.
It's unfortunate, but it's necessary in my mind. If someone doesn't share my political beliefs, then it's possible they're not a safe person for me to be around.
Professor Malhotra says sharing common values like these may make life easier in the long term.
It can reduce disagreements in the household. It can lead to how we're going to raise our kids together under a shared set of values.
Christina was personally asked to be one of the first users of the Right Stuff app.
I think knowing that someone's conservative or liberal in this day and age says a lot about your character or what you want out of your future. So it's very important to me.
Maya is joining us now for more on this. And Maya, I know you probably remember the headlines from a few years ago about how tough the dating world was, it seemed, for young Republican, younger Trump staffers because of sort of the divisive nature of politics here in this country, et cetera, et cetera. Tell me what you're hearing in terms of how politics playing a role on like all the apps today, not just this Right Stuff app.
It's definitely playing a major role, Hallie. And one thing that we're seeing is as the country becomes more politically divided, that's seeping into our social lives and now our romantic lives. Dylan, who I spoke to, also mentioned something as simple as someone being vaccinated or not would be a complete deal breaker. So we're seeing a lower and lower tolerance for lifestyle differences and political differences, especially with millennials and Gen Z. Hallie?
Maya Eaglin, thank you so much. Appreciate you bringing that to us. And that does it for us for this hour. It flew by, huh? We're going to have more for you here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thanks for being with us. As always, coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.